Businessman, entrepreneur and environmentalist Dick Smith has issued a challenge to Adam Bandt, taking out a series of newspaper ads calling on the Greens leader to follow the lead set by Finland's Green Party and endorse nuclear power. Have a look.
Nuclear power, it is a necessary tool in building a sustainable, secure energy economy. And I think the Finnish case example also shows that nuclear power and sustainable renewables are a feasible, economic and effective mix.
But not too many people in Australia expect sense from our Greens and Adam Bandt. Have a listen to this.
Nuclear is not safe. Coal and gas are not safe. Only clean energy is safe. Peter Dutton's scheme is a plan to lift climate pollution and put a radioactive risk over everyone in this country.
I'm pleased to say Dick Smith joins me again in the studio. Good to see you again, Dick. We'll come to Adam Bandt in a moment. But first up, the significance of Finland, the Greens there who want to save the planet, saying that nuclear is the way to do it.
It's the first Green Party in the world. It's so obvious now. Some of my lefty friends have said, oh, Dick, Finland has to go nuclear because it doesn't have as much sun as Australia. In fact, north of the Arctic Circle in Finland, and I've been there, in summertime there's 24-hour sunlight. But the problem they have there is storage. It's too expensive, the same as everywhere in the world. The renewables are cheap when the sun's out and when the wind is blowing, but the storage is the problem. That's what makes it completely unaffordable. Absolutely. Storage is the real key, the reason that intermittent renewables are a problem. You're taking out newspaper articles, though, to get this message across because you fear that something like this in Finland, it's been around for a while, everyone ignores it. Are you frustrated that some of these facts don't seem to make the public debate? Yeah, look, you'd think if anyone was going to be supporting nuclear, you'd think it would be the Greens. All around the world, you think the Greens would be the first people to support it. They're opposed to it, except for one party. Now, maybe this is the start. I'd like to see the Australian Greens embrace it because it's the only way we can get to low levels of putting carbon into the atmosphere but still have an economy. Well, this brings us to Adam Bandt, that sort of ideological response, that fear campaign, that everything stinks except renewables and no recognition that renewables don't work. And even if they were to work to some extent, they rely on extraordinary amounts of batteries, which actually are expensive and dirty to make and dispose of. Let me tell you, Canberra's just putting in what they call a big battery. It's not that big, it's big in price, $400 million. Now, I worked out it's going to run Canberra, it has the power to run Canberra, wait for it, for 40 minutes. So who's going to pay for that? $400 million for 40 minutes of power. That's all going to go onto the electrical bills. In South Australia, the charge there per kilowatt hour is about 50 cents. It's double what we pay in Sydney. But South Australia has, of course, the highest level of renewables. Why is the price so high? Because the cost of batteries is so high. Yeah, the thing is, you would think the Greens would be the first to move here, and it would be a game changer if they did, because they're the ones who say this is a climate emergency, we must do it. I mean, the reason people like the Coalition and myself go to nuclear is because you just accept that people want rid of fossil fuels, and because fossil fuels are the obvious and cheapest and most abundant source now. But if you're going to have to phase them all out, then you should go to nuclear. It's the obvious resort. But if you really think it's an emergency and we have to do this quickly and permanently, there's nothing goes close to nuclear. Yeah, that's amazing, and to me, it'll be interesting to see what the Green parties around the world do. Now that one party, I'll read this to you, in a historic shift, Finland's Green Party voted overwhelmingly to adopt a full pro-nuclear stance at its national meeting. Now, first in the world, first Green Party in the world, surely let's hope it's a start of some common sense being used. How big a role do you think this will play in the Australian election result, energy in general, and of course, importantly, the nuclear aspect? Well, it's the main difference between the two parties. And I have no doubt if we go down this role of 98%, I'm pro-renewables, as you know. Yes. But the Labor Party plan to go 98% renewables will be unbelievably expensive. People won't be able to afford their power. Small businesses won't be able to afford to operate. We'll lose business. So that's the reason I agree with the Liberal Party's idea that if we go nuclear, we can actually save money. and I think that's incredibly important.
You mentioned the Greens, of course. Your main focus is on the Greens because of what's happened in Finland. But what about the Teals? I mean, they claim to be pragmatic and economically sensible. Surely they would be even more likely to accept nuclear.
Look, I talked to Simon Holmes, the court, about this, and he's not against nuclear, but he says it's not necessary. He says it's not necessary for Australia. He thinks it's important for all the other countries. Supports Finland Green Party supporting nuclear. He supports that because he thinks it's necessary there. But he says, Dick, renewables are cheaper here. Now, it's because he has never added the correct price of the batteries. Put the batteries in or wait for it. They talk about pump storage.
Yes.
But if you have a drought, the pump storage doesn't work, like what happened in Tasmania, where they had to ship all these diesel generators for the millennium drought because their pump storage stopped working. So batteries are the problem. The only answer if we want to go low carbon is nuclear, and we should make that decision. We should get Simon Holmes, the court, as one of the major supporters.
Thanks for joining us again, Dick. I appreciate it.